Happy Friday to you, everyone. Hey, today I'm going to wrap up the tracking series, and I'm so sad. I love tracking, and I hope you fall in love the way I have with it. It's going to take several months. You just got to kind of keep that in mind. Your dog's not going to be a tracking champion tomorrow if you just started tracking as soon as I started this series. But just stick with it, and I guarantee you'll have a dog that someone can lean upon one day to maybe help find someone, or you can just go out and have a lot of fun and earn a few titles, tracking titles that are available for your dog. So guys, just get out there, get after it, make it happen. I want to wrap up today with an important part of tracking, and that's indicating on articles. Indicating on articles. In real life, articles are often left by people who are lost. You'd be amazed at some of the things that they'll do. They'll become lost, they get really hot, and they'll discard something. They'll just actually throw it down. They don't feel like carrying the weight. They just throw it right down on the track. Or something will come off of them by accident, unintentionally. Articles are left all the time by people who become lost. And your dog indicating on those articles can certainly be, at a minimum, affirmation that you're on the right track. And there's nothing worse than wondering, because dogs are dogs. They will make mistakes just like you will as a human being. And I remember one time tracking with Yager in the wee hours of the morning after someone who had crashed their car. He was a convicted felon and had fled into the forest. And I was called in by the state police to see if I could track this guy down. And hour after hour went by. It's freezing cold, pitch black, dark. And there goes your dog moving along, and you're wondering, are you just taking me for a walk? Yeah, I can't help it. Even though I trust in my training, I trust in my dog, there's just this inkling of doubt. Am I just being taken for a long, arduous, freezing, and maybe possibly dangerous walk by my dog? Because that has happened to me, and it will certainly end up happening to you. So there's nothing like finding an article on the trail to say, oh, thank goodness, I'm not just being taken for a walk. This dog is actually still on the track. It gives you hope. It can speed up the process. It's incredibly important. Not to mention that in a law enforcement scenario, any articles found on the track can be used, and you will often be used in the court to place that person, the track layer, at the scene of the crime if they fled from that scene. And then for you guys who just want to go out there and compete with your dog, earn a title from the AKC or any other numerous dog sports, articles are often laid on the tracks as part of your certification process. Those will be a little bit more defined because you'll find them directly on the track, right on the track itself. Whereas in real life, discarded items can sometimes be found directly on the track, or if it's a fleeing criminal, they'll just chuck it. I mean, they can throw that thing 30, 40 feet away. They may never be found on the track at all. But if you're going to be doing any sort of competition type tracking, you will need to train your dogs to indicate on articles on the track. I'll be dropping down today in the thread some links to some of the organizations that will judge your dog or tracking, and you can earn various levels from tracking dog to tracking dog. Excellent to variable terrain certificates. Absolutely a lot of fun, so stick with it. Okay, here's the thing about articles. A, they're really easy to train. Really easy to train. It's just repetitive. You just got to do it over and over and over and over again. That's the hard part. It's just sticking with it, doing those things that for you can become quite mundane. But it's necessary. Necessary. And anytime you start training your dog to do anything new, I want you to ask yourself a few questions that if your dog could talk, they would probably ask you. One, what is it that you're trying to teach me? Two, why should I do it? Why? Okay, so what we're going to try and do is teach our dog that when you come across an article, and typically those articles in competitions are going to be about the size of a wallet or a glove. So you can use whatever you want to use. I would say in the beginning, use something consistently. No matter what it is, just find something that works for you. It's not too big. It needs to have just your scent on it. And you need to lay it not on the track at the beginning, because once we get into articles, the first rule is train off the track. because this is going to require some obedience. I'm about to demonstrate here with Captain. You're going to need to lay your articles out. And what I recommend that when you first teach this, teach the animal that when it comes upon something that has your smell on it in an organized fashion, meaning you're on leash, I'm directing you down a line. When you come across something with my scent on it, stop and indicate that you have located it. Now, my desired choice for indication is for the dog to lie down. If you're training any dogs for law enforcement applications, make sure your dog never mouths the article. Nowadays, back in my days, we weren't looking at DNA, but we were looking at fingerprints. And you don't want your dog to erase any of the fingerprints or to contaminate the DNA with their own saliva. Keep your mouth off of the article. The article could be something very dangerous, like a razor blade or a sharp knife. You just don't want them touching it. You just want them to lie near it, close enough that when you walk up, you can see the article lying there on the ground or in the brush. Okay, so when we're going to work with this, always train it off the track to begin with. The track out here, remember, we cannot make a dog track. So therefore, you have to have a dog with high hunt drive if you want your dog to track. However, I can make my dog indicate on articles. That I can do. I can make him lie down when he comes up to the articles. So I'm going to separate obedience from the tracking field to start with. Train your dog on multiple articles. And then once you've done that, then you can have someone else lay the articles down. Someone with their scent about the time that you are now tying it with someone else laying the track, not you. So now you've got maybe your best friend, a spouse, one of your kids. They lay the track and they drop the article along the track. And that's where we're going to start to introduce those different scents. So that's the next step you take. And then also know that indicating on articles is different than casting. I'll talk about in a future video casting. So what is casting? Casting is, maybe the bad guy told you, I did discard a weapon on that track, on that trail. When I was running through the woods, I just chucked it. They just volunteered that. Well, you want to go locate that. So once you find out about where do you think you threw that, you can now train an animal to cast about, to look in an area, and they just sweep back and forth on their own. You just kind of box them in and guide them in until they locate that article. It's also pretty handy. Not only was my police dog able to track humans, but I also taught Yager how to cast for lost objects. And the word for that was search. That's just what I use, search. And I remember one day I taught a group class and there was a lot of snow on the ground. And lo and behold, pulling my gloves out of my jacket, well, my car keys were in there too. And they fell out unbeknownst to me. And imagine now an hour-long group class, everyone's walking around, kicking around up all the snow, tamping it down everywhere. If I had not had my dog, those keys would have remained there until springtime. But I sent my dog out, told him to search. He cast about till he located the keys. I was able to dig them up. There they were. And it was the end of a good day for that. So I'll talk about casting in a future video, but that's not today. Today is article indications that we're going to use on the trail. And again, I'm going to show you today how to start it off the track. Your dog should be very proficient to a point that you can take some articles. And today I'm just going to use these little yellow index cards. So the first thing you're going to want to do is get your scent all over these things. I mean, don't get crazy. Don't be spitting on them and rubbing them all over your skin and through your armpits and everywhere else. That's gross. Your dog is more than capable of knowing that you touch these articles. So just grab them, run them through your hands real quick. That's all you do. And then you're going to lay these out in a straight line because now your dog is kind of used to tracking in a straight line at this point. Whether I make a 90-degree turn, another 90-degree turn, but it's pretty much straight by the time you're ready to introduce articles. You will know that your dog is ready to have articles placed on the track. The training tracks is when you can take these, just throw them in a wide area. They're just laying out on the ground on their own. And you bring your dog out, and whenever he walks up to one on his own, just lays down. Just walks up to one, lays down. When your dog can do that consistently, now your dog is ready to indicate on articles on the track, because if he fails to, if he just stops and sits and looks at you, and you walk up and say down, that won't affect the entire tracking experience. It won't turn it into a doldrum, into something I dread doing. It's something where the dog now looks at you, because I always look in your direction for obedience. So get it trained off the track. All right, so here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to just do this real quick. Okay, so all you need to do is take your handy dandy tree, set it on the ground, lay your article right on top. Piece of cake. I'm going to go ahead and do 5 of these real quick. Lay your article right on top. Again, notice I'm just moving along in a straight line. And also, one thing I've not mentioned, when you do this, especially for about the first 3 to 4 training sessions, do yourself and your dog a favor. Put your dog out of sight. That's contradictory to what we do when we track. When I'm laying a trap, I'll just back tie Captain to something. And he watches and he's getting ready. He knows what's about to go down. We're about to go tracking. You can just see him going, stretching a little bit and just getting all pumped to go tracking. But when we're doing articles, no. Because they will see you placing these treats underneath the article. And Captain is an extremely smart dog. It's amazing. I sometimes think, there's no telling what he would be able to do if I just made the time to train it. But I don't. But he is amazing. He really is. And there's no doubt, if I let him watch me put these cards on those treats underneath, he just walk up, flip that card right up in the air, and grab that treat out from underneath. So I'm not going to do that until I've already kind of set in the behavior of when you come up to these, lie down. Okay, so now let me grab that. Come on, down dog. Leisha. Attaboy, buddy. Good boy. Okay, we'll just start down here at this end. Okay, is there any command that you give? No. Don't use your tracking command because we're not tracking. I don't say anything. Dogs learn with their eyes first anyway, so I will just walk up to the article and I'll just kind of point at the article. And when the dog looks down and sees this article, I'll tell them to lie down. And when they do, I lift the article and they can have the treat. So let me do it, Captain. Down. Good boy. And they can have the treat. Take your article, put it up, put it away. Move on to the next one. Free. Next one right there. And there he goes. Okay, now I'm just going to confess. Out. Don't let him mouth the article. How many did I do of these yesterday, Evan? Evan's filming right now. What, about 15 of these, Captain?
Thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah, so about 15 of these down. So this is not totally brand new, but I've only done 15 repetitions. I just want to do it because I haven't done article training with a dog in about 20 years. So I had to knock off a little rust to make sure I could teach you guys. So Captain, help me with that, and you see how quickly this comes along. Free? Look at that. Beautiful. Well done, sir. Free? Perfect. Well done. Free? Very good. Well done. Free cow dog. All right, so now I just want to experiment, because again, he's a really smart dog, so I'm going to put him in here real fast. Here you go, cow dog. Okay, so let's just see what happens. Again, part of good training is always pushing the envelope. Just push it, baby, push it. Always give what the dog will give back. So just take what they'll give you, take it, and run with it, baby. Never just sit there and go, well, Bryan said I have to do 200 reps. Those are recommendations always. You're constantly evaluating, where's the new point A? Where is that new point A? That means I can stretch that point B, or I can pull it in closer. So just seeing Captain do that well. Now that was number 20 that he did. Let's just take a look here and see what we see. I'm going to set out a couple of these articles. And then I'm going to let him out of that room off leash. We'll see what he does. All right. Yeah, go ahead and let him out of it.
Good luck.
Hello, free. Awesome, not bad. Now you notice I did have to gesture, have to kind of point in that direction. But man, that's all it took. This is number 21. Oh.
He beat you to it.
Oh, they already got the tree? Oh, you little rat, you. Okay. See, I told you smart. That's just the truth. He's a lot smarter than I am. Pretty Kellogg. Pretty. Well done. Free. He's looking at it. Free. So I'm going to disengage him. Just gesture. Oh, it's too far away. Free. I want closer. Bingo. Right there. Good. So a couple things from that. Just based on that, Captain's not ready for me to put articles out on the track and field. It's nice to see. It does mean that the old cognitive light bulb is starting to hum. It's definitely warm up. He's getting the idea. I need to honestly do, just by observing that with Captain, probably at least 100 more repetitions before I'd be ready to go on the track and field. And the reason being is, for 5.5 years, he's looked in my direction. Captain, he looks at me. The treats are over here. My hands, I use so many gestures whenever I'm training him to do anything. So many gestures. And then the treats, of course, come from me. So therefore, he's kind of programmed and hardwired to look in my direction. Look to me for any direction, any guidance. He's trained to do that. I did that to him. Now I'm asking him to don't do that. Don't look back at me. Go out about 20 feet ahead of me on a long line. And when you come across the article, do your own thing. Don't look back at me. I don't know where it is. You know where it is. You indicate on it. So that being said, with Captain, probably need about 100 more repetition before he'd be ready. But by then, we're heading out here. So a couple things I did. We're indoors today. I would have done this outdoors if we'd had better Wi-Fi reception outdoors, but we didn't. So we just decided to do this indoors today. But you can do it indoors, and you can also do it outdoors. And I recommend that you actually do them both, because the repetition count. If the weather is so bad, do it indoors. Just line them up down the hallway in your house. It really doesn't matter. Just build the foundation. You come across an article that I laid down, you lay down right then. Don't mouth it. Don't cheat. Take the darn treat out from underneath it. I get it. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. But not in this case here. Then get outdoors when you can. Get out on the grass, but again, you're not tracking. You're not using your tracking word. You're not even doing anything that even remotely looks like tracking. I usually do it on a short leash, so I can walk right up next to them. I get this foundation done to a point where if I've got 20 of these laid out, every single time, boom, down, there he goes, down. When I see that, I know I'm now ready to place it on the tracking field. And I've had dogs that were superb at indicating on articles off the tracking field, but then the first time I put it on there, they act confused. Because they're not used to this. Remember, this is still going on. You're still doing this training while you're doing the article training. It's parallel training. You may do this in the morning, articles in the afternoon. But then you bring them together. And a lot of dogs act confused when you first put the article on the track. It's as though they're going, what's this doing here? Why is this here? I've never had to lay down out on one of these tracks before. In fact, it's actually been preferred. I kind of even pull you a little bit. Don't worry. Just climb up that long line, tell the dog to lie down, and when the dog does, lift the article, have the treat underneath it. And of course, the natural progression of this thing would be, you get to a point to where there's not a treat underneath every article, and that should really be done when you're doing it off the track. Go switch to anytime you can get off a scheduled reinforcement onto a variable reinforcement, your training will progress at a faster, more reliable pace. So that means if I've got 10 articles, maybe 3 will have a treat underneath them, the other ones will not. Get to that point as well. And then finally get to a point to where you have someone else put the articles on the ground and let the dog smell one of the articles before you take them up to it. Give them a little whiff on it. And so if I had an article here, let's say these were, Evan had laid these, then I would just take some tongs or have Evan do it, let him smell them, and then now release him on those other articles. And now he starts to learn what's called scent discrimination. And therefore, when he comes across an article on a track laid by Evan, then he'll indicate on the article laid by Evan. And then as it progresses, it gets super, 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 super advanced. Here's what happens. There's all sorts of articles on this track. However, you shall ignore all of the articles that do not have the track layer scent. So they'll be placed on there on purpose. Because you don't want your dog on a real live track, indicating on the first beer can it comes across, indicating on someone's old ratty shoe that's laying on the track, definitely not on any discarded food. No, you only indicate on the article that has the scent of the track layer, whoever that is. And man, you start to mix it up and you finally get down to a point where a good friend of mine many years ago over in Stuttgart, Germany, he demonstrated with his dog. He took the emery boards that a lot of women would use for their nails, took one, broke it into 5 tiny little pieces, waited until his sons had finished playing football over there, we call it soccer here, but football over there, on a field, and then 2 more games or 2 more matches were held. When they were finally finished, he walked out on that field, laid a track across it, putting those emery boards down into the grass, deep into the soil. And he left for 2 days. And they held many more soccer matches on that field. Took his dog back after that, and I witnessed this with my own eyes. I would never believe it unless I was standing right there watching it happen. His dog not only did a perfect track, but indicated on every broken emery board. Now guys, that dog had been tracking 4 to 5 days per week for 5 solid years. That's what can happen. When you've got a nose like a dog, you'd have those capabilities as well. Okay guys, so that wraps up tracking. Just kind of keep in mind, this is articles here on the track. Stay with your tracking. Your dog has an incredible ability to smell, to detect sign. And know this, even though you're walking along there, we humans on average, we have 30 to 40,000 skin cells that die every hour. Every hour. By the time a year passes, they say that the average person would have 9 pounds of dead skin cells. Wow. And the average person walks at a pace of about 2 miles per hour. And in that walking, they will leave sign every 18 to 20 inches. Yeah, 18 to 20 inches. They will leave some sign. And now that'll happen over 3,000 times in a mile. Hence why your dog can track what appears to be invisible. They are absolutely incredible. Been there multiple times behind a dog, and by the time I got to the end, I was just at a complete and utter loss for words. I just couldn't believe it. Superhero dogs, every single one of them. So guys, get out there, have fun doing it, and if you do it long enough, and you start having a few of those little moments on your own, you'll realize what I'm talking about. You'll realize it. Okay, so that wraps up tracking. I'm done with it for now. We've only got, I think, what's today, day 312, so minus that from 365, and I tell you what, we only have a few more, a little over a month and a half left of these videos. I got a lot to put out, and I want to get through that. But trust me, even after the 365, old Bryan's not going to disappear. I do want to hold a few advanced tracking virtual seminars, and I'll do those. And I'm going to kind of keep working with Kat and see if I can get them up to that level by the time I do those series. So tracking is not going anywhere. Keep practicing with your dog, and by the time I run those advanced series, your dog should be ready to do the same thing. I've enjoyed it, guys. I'll check in with you tomorrow. Got some questions to start answering, and I'm going to get busy doing it. Have a great day. Good job, cow dog. You're the man.